Live at the Channel Partners Expo and Conference in Las Vegas, and we're here in the JS Group Suite, and I'm excited for this next topic. It is all about why is data intelligence and partner intelligence important to career growth in Channel, and in IT. And I'm very excited to have a guest who is normally behind the scenes, who's a leader in her own right for years and has so much expertise in partnerships and in data. And her name is Kathleen Martin. She is currently the senior community leader at the JS Group, but she's also the chief community officer of a new entity that's called ALN, which stands for Advancing Leadership Network. And we are very lucky because Kathleen just this morning made some major announcements about the launch of ALN, and she's here to talk about them, but she's also here to talk about them in relation to data and the importance of the data. And so, Kathleen, welcome for coming. Thank you so much for being here. And please tell us all, how did you come to get started with the ALN initiative, and how is data playing a role in it?
Well, thank you so much for being here. And we are thrilled to have this opportunity with all of you and with you, our team at Partner Optimizer. So let's talk a little bit about the data that's out there today. I am a big proponent of what matters gets measured, and what's measured matters most. And that plays huge as we look at the data regarding hiring trends and specifically inclusivity inside of the workforce. We happen to know at ALN and JSG with our research team at ANS, those are all the acronyms that I can give you at one time. Like, that's a whole alphabet of acronyms.
ANS.
Yes. We happen to know from various studies as well as our own that when women join leadership inside of companies, they see their revenue grow 19%. So it's one thing to say we want a more inclusive workforce, but where the power really comes from why we want that inclusive workforce or what it means to you on how to take action is where the data comes in. And that's why when we released the Advancing Leadership Network. Boy, I've got to get used to all these acronyms myself. We started it off with data. It was actually data that drove us to this decision, and it was data that allowed us to really know where we wanted to hone in. So let's talk a little bit about that data, if we can, for a minute. We found out while talking to women inside of the channel and inside of technology companies that 84% have not had a promotion in the last 6 months, and 58% are not expecting one in the next 6 months. That speaks to some real disparities in leadership. And those are numbers you can bank on, right? That's not something that says, I feel, I sense, my gut tells me. It's a really hard and fast number. 63% of the independent individuals who were interviewed said that they feel that ineffective management and leadership is holding them behind. So if we know what the problem is, the data tells us 63%, now I can go and take an action against that, right? It's not just a nebulous sense of something.
Exactly.
I have a really hard number. 40% of the individuals we spoke to cite a lack of equity inside of their offices. And so that's not saying that this problem is something I think is happening. It's something I know is happening. 63% continue to tell us that there are persistent gender inequities happening inside of their offices. And I think that's something you and I can get behind. Now, we're not the only company that's looking at what's going on out there. While ANS is definitely leading the way in looking at research, and we'll be measuring this on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis because, again, what's measured matters most.
Yep.
We're not the only ones doing this. In fact, this is so important that McKinsey and LeanIn.org every single year launch the Women in the Workplace study. And that is 100% data-based. And this year, for the first time, IBM and Chief joined to create the IBM Leadership Study, really talking about the inequities as far as women in leadership. And we know this is called the broken rung. But the big thing happening at this conference, and you and I touched on this morning, is AI. We're talking about it here at CP Expo. We're talking a lot about it at JSG. And it is definitely changing how data approaches this market. And Dina, I think for the first time, AI is giving us the opportunity to, number one, manage our data better. It allows us to synthesize that data faster. And then finally, it allows us to make actionable steps, whether it's inside our partner communities, whether it's inside our companies, or whether it's looking at our own career plan and where we want to go.
Absolutely. It is impacting in every aspect. And I love that the research that you're doing is actually quantifying very important information that was otherwise considered qualitative or potentially emotional. It's actually quantifying so that you now have the stats to then affect change and affect awareness. So congratulations on making those moves.
Well, thank you, but it's not just us. I think that every individual watching today needs to begin to get comfortable with data.
That's right.
You
Absolutely.
cannot today be a part of business, be a part that is an individual that wants to move forward in leadership without truly embracing your data and making it a part of what you do every day. And that's a big part about what ALN is going to be helping people with. Nobody thinks twice about a company stating their earnings on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, and an annual basis, filing a 10K, filing an annual report. But yet they are uncomfortable taking that same look at the data that relates to their employee satisfaction or their gender makeup inside of the office when it comes to inclusion or even on diversity topics. And I think AI is going to help us. We've seen it already move into the hiring and employment area. Now I think as individuals, we need to embrace that data and start to use it to help us really hone in on where are we best served and how can we make a difference, not just in our own careers, but for all of those around us.
Absolutely. It makes total sense. And I think, with ALN's initiatives also to provide the education and the training on how to improve your career, it's part of that is using data on a level of how do you apply data? How do you go forward and not fear data, but learn about insights, learn about partner or customer intelligence, learn about how your job and the roles that you're playing are quantified or quantifiable, and the results that you're putting in place can be quantified. Because when you do that, you're going to show up with a much better likelihood of success
Agreed.
in your future positions.
So think about the fact that ALN was actually born out of the JS Group. You're here today in the suite for JS Group. I also work for them as well. And at JS Group, we help companies really engage with their channel. And we do that by helping them understand their data. We help them drive deeper into their data, go farther into their data. And it was an understanding of all of that that brought us to ALN. And so all of our courses are built with data metrics around them. All of them are built with looking for a level of success by data as we go into it. So I think data is really the most important thing as we talk about how to grow as individuals, how to embrace AI, and how to find that next step, if you will, really into how can I bring myself up leadership-wise, career-wise, or if I'm an individual looking at my own schedules, how do I know if my employee base is equitable, right? How am I using my employee data?
Yep, I agree. And I think rather than waiting for your companies or your employers to tell you what data you need to know and acquire, you now can take the initiative to figure that out in advance and make yourself better equipped, educate yourself, learn things like prompting, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Learn how to look at data without fear, but embracing it. Sometimes that's a challenge. Come across people who say, "Oh, I'm not a data person. I just rely on other people." Take the time. It doesn't take that much effort, really, when you just get beyond the word of data, right? Think of it as information that you can process, and it will make you better at what you do.
So when we look at this, 87% of women are promoted for every, or 87, excuse me, it's a very quantitative number. 87 women are promoted for every 100 men. That's a piece of data. That tells me an inequity exists. When I consider the fact that it's not just forward-looking data, it's backwards-looking data. So we may call them statistics. You may call them reference points, but at the end, it's all data that's feeding into the same thing. I quoted some this morning. It is impossible for me to believe in many ways that the first woman CEO of a Fortune 500 company took her role in 1972. But it wasn't until there was a Credit Act in 1974 in the United States that she was allowed to have her own credit card. That's not something I'm making up. It's a statistic, it's a reference point, and from that point, woman becomes first CEO in 1972. I then can track leadership growth from that point forward for women as CEO in Fortune 500 companies. We know it's sadly lacking. And how do we know that? Because the data gave us a baseline and it also gives us a trend. So I think to your point, especially as we look at career growth, career development, how do I do it? How do I make sure AI doesn't take my job? How do I make sure that I'm not boring people hearing me talk about not getting ahead in tech? I think if you really dig underneath it, the one thing somebody can't debate with you is data.
That's right. That's right. I agree. And we only have a few minutes left, but to bring it over to partner intelligence and partner data, one of the things that we're doing is training our customers, training our users, training partnership leaders on how to understand a data-driven ideal partner profile. Because once you understand how to build an ideal partner profile, it helps you understand the fiber, the business attributes of any company that you may work with in technology, whether it's your employer or your partner. It will help you understand who they are and how to make better decisions in your career, in partnerships, in channels, and improve everything all the way around. So we love being able to affect those workshops. And if anyone is ever interested in specifically learning or joining a workshop, please let us know. We're happy to send you those educational points, or else get on live with you and your team and teach you how to use data-driven technology to build an ideal partner profile, which will help you better understand partner intelligence and partnership careers. And we work with JS Group all the time. We love partnering with them, and we've come up with some really unique ways to drive value even further in partnerships. And so it's so great to work with you and with JSG and with ALN. And we look forward to hearing more over time. And I'd love to have you back every so often when you're ready with new data to announce and comparisons. And hopefully in the future, there'll be trending lines that will show how you're moving the needle.
And Dina, we would like to extend the opportunity to have you come and be a teacher inside of the ALN network and really help make data something that is comfortable for every leader out there. So I hope that everyone goes to aln.network. That's it, aln.network. And you can find us and hopefully you, Dina, in there also helping educate this next group of individuals on how to be leaders with data.
We are very excited to do that. Kathleen, thank you so much for being on the program.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I can't tell you thank you enough.
You're very welcome. So everyone, in another few minutes, we're going to be live again, Ecosystem Chronicles, episode, I don't know, but it's the OMG episode. I've got Clinton Gatewood, our Chief Customer Officer of Partner Optimizer, who's going to be with me talking about the OMG moments that our customers have when they're using the Pipe platform, Partner Optimizer's Pipe platform. So look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for being here and have a great show.
Thank you. You too.